Hello, everybody. I'd like to open the regular meeting of Cobre Board of Education into session. It is 5 o'clock. Let the minutes show that Mr. Gomez, myself, Mr. Holguin, I don't see Mr. Cordova or Mr. Guadiana on. Okay,
Mr. Guardetta just joined, Mr. Sepulveda.
okay. Yeah, I see him now. Mr. Cordova might not be on. His wife is pretty sick. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Entertain a motion for approval of agenda items.
Gomez, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
This is Gilbert, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Guadiana. Any corrections to agenda? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
myself, yes. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of March the 8th.
I'll move. This is Gilbert.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Gabe, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Holguin. Any corrections to those minutes?
There's a few typos. If they'll just go through them and clean those up, otherwise I'm okay with it.
Okay, you hear that, Irene? Okay. Any other thing? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of the March 28th special meeting minutes. No motion?
Gomez, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
I'll second.
Gabe, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Guadiana.
Sorry, Gabe.
Any corrections to those minutes?
I just had a question. One of the things we discussed was the board's role in reviewing positions. And this one included a few positions. It's probably not a bad idea to note that in the minutes. So that way we have that kind of a record that we reviewed it and that it created that, and that those positions should be tied to the funding stream and the duration of that funding stream.
Okay. I see Irene nodding her head, so it'll be noted. Any other thing? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries. Moves us to update on unfinished business. Mr. Mendoza?
Yes, members of the board, Mr. President, last week I had a meeting with Rob Price, and we talked about his, where he was, on what status on the construction or the planning for the gym. He's unable to come on tonight, but he will be here at the later board meeting. But what we discussed that day, I'll give you a quick update. He says he's now got a hold of the civil engineers, and the civil engineers are starting to help him with the construction plan. they're working on the structural part. The surveyors are doing the groundwork. And then he also has the topographics is being done. So he should have a better picture of what the buildings are going to look like and everything else in 2 weeks when we have the next board meeting. So that's a quick update on where he's at, okay? And he won't be with us tonight, so he's apologizing for that. So any questions, comments? That's so far what we've got.
I have a question, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Mr. Cordova mentioned the possibility of using photocells for providing electricity. And is that being considered at this point?
Without having Rob present here, you know, I know we
And I'm sorry, I
talked
said
about
photocells. I meant the panels.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cordell, can you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I said photocells and I meant the solar panels.
Yeah, the solar panels, they have talked about it, and this is coming up with what they're talking here, because under this, they're gonna get in the electrical engineers for the electrical wiring and that, and I'll make sure to mention that make sure that he's ready to let you know about that, okay? So that'll be at the next meeting, and I'll make sure that he's ready to answer your question there. Because I don't recall, I know they've mentioned eventually having those panels up there, like on the mountainside, like west of Cobre, but that's for the whole school. But let's see what he says about this gym, okay?
And along those lines, if it were to be something that was going to be installed on the roof of the gym, and particular just to the gym, the orientation of the building might be changed 90 degrees, so that way they have a south-facing slant on the roof.
Yes, sir. I'm sure that will have to happen on that. So again, like I tell you, you'll bring the experts on it. So I'm just telling you that would be something they're considering. Okay.
Okay. In a couple more. Well, one more point is going. What's the timeline for RFP, and is there an estimated cost of this yet?
Until all the plans are done and stuff, he says they'll put it out for request for proposal, and then we'll know then. So right now we have a guesstimate based on his expertise. Okay.
And the guesstimate is again?
You know, I don't have it. And let me see. Terry's not on at this point. George, I don't know if George is on, but well, I can't recall. I'm not gonna guess. Okay, but it's within budget that we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, I have a related question about this. I guess I'm just wondering, do we have a facilities master plan for the district and for each of the schools? And I guess the reason go ahead.
We currently have one, but I think it's 7 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And we're now contracting, and we're having that work done here pretty soon. Okay, once we get the board approves the contract, probably at the next meeting. Okay, to get that. We've gone for proposal on that. Yes, sir. It's for the 5-year master plan on that. By the way, Mr. Guardiano, if now that Gabe mentioned that, we need to get that plan back so that we can work with the person that's going to help us, and
Sure.
Just to look at it. And you're more than welcome to get it again.
I'll take it tomorrow.
When you have a chance, please. Thank you.
So I
you,
guess
Gabe.
you're welcome. So I guess I would ask, how does this new building fit into that facilities master plan? Because my understanding is that the size of our footprint is what determines or is determined by our enrollment. So, is this building considered expansion, and does it really fall in line with our enrollment numbers? does it make sense to be building a new building versus, doing lots of needed maintenance on existing buildings? I'm just wondering how this fits in.
To answer your question, Gabe, Mr. Holguin, this building is part of the bond. Okay, so it's not actually on the actual plan unless I can see it. That's why I need to look at it, Mr. Guardiano, the old plan. But what I'm saying, the size or the numbers of the students in attendance. So let's just say if we were to implode the high school, they wouldn't fund us to from what it is, the size. We'd probably end up like Lordsburg had when they went to remodel their high school and everything. They didn't get half the size of what they had before. So this is why we need to look at it with this new facilities, 5 years facilities plan that's coming up and see where we're at. Okay.
Go ahead, Gabe. Mr. Guadiana.
And that's kind of where we were with the bond. We were way ahead of any substantive information for us to make any decisions based on any kind of plan because it didn't exist, and we went without that. In addition, there's supposed to be a committee, a citizen advisory committee related to capital projects, which we don't have, and it includes any kind of capital projects over, I think it was $150,000 if there's a change of that amount. And I'm concerned that we're going forward with a facility plan without convening an advisory committee and having a full assessment of each of the individual properties.
This is going to be part of the planning, sir, and this is why we have a consultant as part of CES joining us, and there's going to be contracted to lead us in this. And of course, yeah, all stakeholders need to take place in this. Is what he advises us to. So we don't have anybody contracted yet because that's got to come to formal board approval. So we'll come from there.
How are we going to set up a citizen advisory committee?
I don't know, Mr. Guardiano. That's going to be part of the advisor, the contractor that we're going to get. That's going to guide us in getting this whole thing organized and so taking us through this. And we'll get all the stakeholders here. We're in the preliminary stages of hiring them, and that's all I can say at this point. I can't go into specifics without having the person here on hand.
Well, and the reason I'm concerned is, number one, the Citizen Advisory Committee is part of our policies, and it should be an ongoing committee. And if we're going to wait until all these plans are in place and then bring him in and say, well...
I didn't say that, Mr. Guardiano. I'm saying that's as soon as we hire this person, if it's a recommendation to get them going, not hire, contract this person to lead us. And Mr. Point of order, Mr. Sepulveda, we're going on a tangent here. We were talking about the gym. We need to proceed with the agenda, okay? That's just a point of order.
Okay.
I would appeal that point of order in terms of saying that we're talking about a project for which a component is missing, and that component is the advisory committee. It's critical to any capital projects that we have. So,
Mr. Guardiano, we don't know if it's missing. The advisor will help us organize everything to get it done correctly. Okay, this is a person that is well-rounded and knows the ins and outs of what's part of that plan, okay? So that's what I'm saying. So, Mr. Sepulveda, I recommend that we move on with the agenda, please.
Okay. I still appeal that because it is not making the decision to move forward is one that we're going to invest in civil engineers, surveyors, and the person that's already done the drawing without having the public's participation and saying, yes, whether this is necessary or not.
Mr. Guadiana, just to correct that, I think the public, when they voted for the bond money, approved that part of the bond to build that auxiliary gym. That was that. Now for the for the facilities plan, that's where we're looking at bring in somebody from CES that'll lead us and tell us what we need to put in place. And then at that time, once he's here, then at that time, we go forward with the committee that you're saying to see what is it that we need and where we're going to put things and stuff like that. But until that person is here so we can start looking at the plan, but that's at the time when we bring the person in, the people that you're saying.
I understand that concept, and I agree with that concept. It's to me, and this will be the last time I address it, it's that we proceeded without having that function throughout the expenditures of the bond. And I was hoping that we would start trying to get more public input as we go on, because the bond, as we identified the things we were going to do, isn't going to cover everything. So there's going to have to be some decisions made on which ones are not going to be done. And I would think that it would be respectful of the public to have them involved in the capacity they should have been involved in from the very beginning.
Okay. So with that, we move on to item B. Mr. Mendoza.
This is update on reentry, and I've asked Ms. Barrela to come and update the board on where we are.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. So based on our report to Public Education Department last week, we had 769 students for in-person learning, 308 students for remote learning. We did have one positive student case at one of our schools last week, which resulted in 22 students having to quarantine. So those students are this week and next week, they will be learning remotely. We have 171 staff who are fully vaccinated. And then also, New Mexico Public Education Department is offering voluntary student school-based surveillance testing for COVID-19 using Binex Now to have it as an option for parents who want to opt in for student surveillance testing. We are getting trained on that this week, so I don't have a lot more information. We did one training session today. We have another training session tomorrow. Some of our staff will be attending training on Wednesday and Thursday. It's a 2-session training. PED is hoping to launch this on April 26th. And what they are encouraging is 10% of students in athletics and activities be surveillance tested weekly, and 1% of in-person students at each school be surveillance tested weekly. So we will have some more information to bring to the board at the next meeting, because like I say, we're barely getting trained on that this week. Any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
That's some
Mr.
questions.
Guadiana.
Just,
I'm sorry, I thought you were saying bye, Mr. Guadiana. I'm sorry.
what were the odds? I've seen, I've gone through the drop-off parts, and I've gone through some classrooms, and I'm extremely happy with the efforts that are going on at the schools. There's been some quick reactions to things that haven't been working well, and all in all, it seems to be going better every day. So the managing of the traffic, managing of the students, I think that's going very well. In looking in a classroom, a couple of classrooms, I find some concerns still because the lack of having a microphone that the teacher can walk around in. My teachers have to carry the laptops with them and kind of go along with them so they don't lose contact with the students that are remote. Fortunately, in the classes that I've gone into, there aren't very many people on remote in those classes, and they're making do with what they have. But is there any consideration of getting any equipment such as the microphones that are and the camera that follows the teachers as they walk around in the classroom?
And we did have one of our principals test a camera microphone like that, and it didn't work. So the microphones that the teachers are using are the ones that came with the projectors that we just purchased. We did have some teachers at the high school test those. Mr. Gearhart was one of them that tested in the band room. Anywhere that he was in the band room, the students that were remote were able to hear him, and he was able to hear them. So that's what we've been encouraging principals and teachers to use, because that seems to be working well. Like I say, we did try one of the portable microphones, and it did not work. So we are, as we find additional items, we are trying other items, but that seems to be working the best at this point. It's the cameras that we just got this year from that grant.
We had this discussion, I think, way back in November. And it was that you guys, all the schools have a setup that was being used for some training, online training. And it was a setup that had an iPad, had a tracking camera, and had a...
That's in pre-K. That's in pre-K.
Okay, but was that type of equipment looked at? Because that seemed to be successful now, from what I understand of its use.
I'm going to defer it over to Victor, because I know that we have tried different items. Victor, can you jump on?
Yes, sir. So the system that you're talking about and the information you're getting from is from the teachers that utilize from like Joey says, from the pre-K program. That equipment was donated from that program. Right now that they're currently using the new U cameras that we got off of the grant that the donation from United Way. The high school and a couple teachers at the middle school have utilized those where, like I said, where they're setting up the camera to present, so they're not having to use their laptop camera. That camera is very, very, it's pretty clear. It has a built-in microphone and it's pretty accurate. I'm currently using that as we speak. It's just have one right here that I'm trying, just to the fact that I want to know how they all work. And it's a matter of on a case, on request on how to go and show everyone how to use it. Right now, we're currently staying in communication, and we haven't had very many people requesting it. It's mostly at the high school. And that is adequate information. And, I see those smirks, but I know that, I have emails to back myself up. I do reach out. I sent out a survey. A survey requesting what types of information staff would like, equipment, and most of them were more curious on getting a more powerful laptop, and that is something that's in the works at the moment. But as far as that tracking camera that you're talking about, I cannot find that same part number, and the ones that are currently being used mainstream right now are sold out, and they're probably about $699 a piece.
The camera I'm talking about,
I know which camera you're talking about, sir. It's a little one that came with the pre-K iPads.
It's one that Dina Davis told me about, and that each one of the schools has one. So I don't know how there'd be that many of them missing where you couldn't track any kind of purchase information. So I don't understand that. And yeah, this is deja vu from where we were back in November. But yes, teachers are walking around with laptops in their hand. The camera you're talking about is mounted, and it's a stationary one. And as they walk around to talk to different students, to go over what they're doing and to do their version of tech support, because they are doing tech support as well, is cumbersome for them to do. And I'm just trying to make a way that's give them the tools that can make their job a little bit easier, without them having to research what's available and kind of make an assumption of that configuration in the room. Be nice to see a demo model and give an option. But that aside, the other thing too that relates to computers are the charging stations. And we had a discussion about this in a budget meeting, but we have teachers trying to come up with ways to charge the computers overnight. And a power strip, like there are a few of them around, especially like in that computer case, that's the rolling computer case. I understand that will probably be something we wouldn't consider, though I think that's the ideal solution. But power strips that would give the teachers an ability to have all the different ones connected into one long strip would make it a lot safer in the classroom. I did go to a classroom and there was one child that did have a computer that was not charged. And so there was the extension cord and there was a cord running through that. And when you multiply that times 2 or 3 or 4 people that don't have their things charged, it's problematic. And so that's another thing I think we could help a great deal with. Another thing that was discussed, somebody else brought up the idea of having the portable batteries, the kind of backup batteries ones that you charge on a USB cord. So if a student shows up with a low charge, you can just plug one of those in and it doesn't require an extension cord or anything else like that. And are we moving anywhere to make that accommodation and eliminate wires running to the desks?
I don't know who's supposed to answer that.
Victor, Jim.
That is something that I know Joyce and Dr. Carrillo are still working on. We've had a couple options that we've provided them. Like I say, it's reaching out to multiple districts, seeing how they're doing things. I've offered you multiple times to show up and let's see what, have a walkthrough. But if you're willing to stop by and have a conversation, we could do a site visit and you can take me to the classroom that has the most trouble and we can come up with a solution. But at the moment, it's more people go to you than their actual school principal or making a work ticket or even sending us an email. This on my end is like, it's a hearsay, because I am really motivated on making sure that the teachers have the support that they need, and I work in between whatever schedule that they're requesting, because when I move my schedule around to reach out, they're teaching the class, so I'm having to wait for their response and their prep periods so we can come up with a solution. So going back and forth, like I said, if you want to do a site visit, we can meet Wednesday. If you have any days, we can meet. Any school board member that's willing, that wants to do that as well, hey, come at it. Let's go. So we can answer your questions right there, because putting a blast
tomorrow morning
like this, it's not very professional.
I'm ready tomorrow
we
morning
are doing
if you
what
want
we
to go.
can. What's that, sir?
I'm ready tomorrow morning if you want to go.
I won't be in office, but I can have Daniel. I could have Daniel go and assist you with that. But like I said, I'd rather be there in person. So if you're available on Wednesday, I can meet you on Wednesday. Wednesday or Friday.
What time Wednesday?
Anytime. You tell me, we'll be there. But we need to get this, and any other board member that wants to join can come to. Because we have a lot of stuff going on, and we'll fit our schedule to assist you and show you.
Victor, there's a restriction on how many board members can be at one place at the same time, and it's 2. So if another board member wants to join us, then yeah. But Wednesday at like 10 o'clock, that way all the morning traffic is done and it's pre-lunch.
Meet me at administration.
What's that?
Meet us at the administration building.
Okay, or we can meet there at Hurley.
Meet me at the administration, and I'll drive you to where we're gonna go, or wherever,
Okay. So 10 o'clock Wednesday, if that's okay, Mr. Mendoza.
He said that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I said, we've gone back and forth with budget, finance committee meetings, several board meetings, and I'm not going to let our department get blasted because we are stepping out of our way to put stuff in staff members' hands, and we're trying to be very proactive, and we're there for them. We're there for the students. Others might think not, but like I said, I have emails, I have work orders. Like I said, nothing's come in for anything on what you've mentioned today so far.
Okay, well, thank you, Victor. Anything else on reentry?
I still have a few more things. One is in Bayard and in Hurley, the portables, still not ready. Still not ready. And Bayard hasn't been worked on by maintenance. Hurley's had some progress, substantial progress, but it's still in a very rough state, and it's nowhere near usable from just walking into it. Even the ramp, for instance, at the bottom isn't a completed job, and if somebody were to use a wheelchair to go there, there's like about a 2-inch jump that they have to make to get on the metal part of the ramp from the dirt part. But when we talk about accountability and we come up with the same things over and over again, it hurts. It hurts. We're putting students at risk. We're putting our reputation as being concerned about the students at risk. And in addition, when you look at ventilation, when we talked about ventilation, I thought it was going to be something like to the tune of 2 purifiers in the classrooms, because 1 purifier in a classroom, I don't know if it can work that volume of air. And in Hurley, there was no classrooms with 2. And as a matter of fact, the office section of it, which has a number of different rooms, just has 1 purifier. The dining room itself has 2 purifiers, and that's a lot of air to move around. And so where are we with purifiers? Are we full use of not just the ones that we have, but the ones that are required?
I don't know if George is on, Mr. Williana, but maybe Mr. Mendoza can answer this. And to add to that, I don't see how some of this stuff, the state fire marshal came through and did an inspection and approved us to open. There's still some concerns that I have personally with some of the things that I've seen that the state fire marshal said it was okay. I haven't talked to him yet, but I am going to.
I agree with you there, but I think with respect to the portables, I don't think they gave those an okay. I believe they said that was kind of an exception until they get those ready, because clearly there's no communication system set up there. There's no fire alarm system set up there. So I don't think that was something that he gave an okay with. But I appreciate that you're looking into that. The other thing is in dietary. I'm glad to see that now there's a posting on our internet site for staffing for dietary, because like Bayard doesn't have enough staff there to do the warming on site, and yet we've known that there's been a concern about the staffing in the cafeteria, but I hope that gets taken care of real well. It's just sad to see the first time it's announced, I believe was today. I hadn't seen it prior to that. Prior to that, there was one that was announced in July of last year, as far as a dietary worker. So the staffing part of it, this is a critical function, and I hope that we were able to recruit quickly, and I'm happy to see that has gone out. I'm just sad to see that it's gone out so late. The other thing is related to dietary are the conditions of the walk-in fridge at the middle school and the ovens actually, I think the walk-in fridges at the high school and the ovens in the middle school, there's wires exposed. There's cover, and it's not so much that it's a part of construction. It seems like very lousy maintenance work where people have left the covers off of the devices, and it's I mean, that's very unsafe, and not to mention a fire hazard in that. Then there's also rust in the walk-ins, and that is continual lack of repair. And there was even the suggestion to use a walk-in, and it was measuring 60 degrees. That's unacceptable. That's very unacceptable. So it's disappointing still at this stage in the game we're here.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Mendoza?
No, I'm taking these notes and I'll make sure I discuss that with Mr. Peru tomorrow. And answering you about the personnel, I met late last week with Alma, and Alma assures me she has enough personnel. She hired Joyce, I think it was 2 people now, so she has enough. She just says she wants to go a couple more weeks because she's on this summer seamless program. And I know the principals have been asking for warm meals at the thing. And I'll find out about why those wires are still up there, because I think I saw them about 3 or 4 weeks ago also, Mr. Guardiana. I'm aware of that.
I appreciate that.
No problem. We'll get on it. I'll get on it tomorrow.
It's just the accountability part that I'd really like to see.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Moves us to public input in reference to our agenda. Anything on public input in reference to our agenda?
There's nothing at the moment, sir.
Okay,
I'm not sure if you guys received anything, but we haven't received anything.
okay. Moves us to administration, Mr. Mendoza.
Yes, under approval, item A is approval of the 2021-2022 school calendar. And I'll turn this over to Jose and Joyce, please.
Mr. President, members of the board, the calendar committee met last week, and calendar A and calendar B were discussed. They were discussed and reviewed. The calendar committee was asked to go back to the sites and share both calendars with teachers to receive some input and recommendations. The calendar committee met again, and based on the numerous recommendations from the staff at the sites, the calendar committee decided to create calendar C. So calendar A, B, and C were put out for teachers to vote. The votes came back today, and calendar C led the vote with 40.6% of the staff that responded. There was 106 responses. Calendar A came in second with 35.8%, and calendar B came back in third place with 23.6%. Questions, comments?
Mr. Carrillo, what were the deciding factors?
The deciding factors on,
Yeah, and why they chose calendar C? What appealed to the teachers more about that than the other two?
the recommendations that were made was that, the staff is kind of a split, because some staff would like to end the year and have the K-5 plus at the end of the year, and some other staff would like to have it at the beginning when teachers are fresh. They feel that if we stack those days at the end of the year, that teachers and students are tired. If we put them at the beginning of the year, teachers and students are fresh. Parents, after having kids around at home, would like their kids to go back to school early. So those were some of the comments. The other deciding factors, as you call it, were they really would like to have less working Fridays. They really appreciate the Fridays, hence going to a 4-day week. And one of the comments was made that some teachers were also, here because when the 4-day week came about, it was based on recruiting and retaining teachers. So those are some of the factors, some of the comments that were made on why, they wanted to recommend a third calendar. Yeah, high school, really, this is where they're split. High school likes to work on Fridays, and they wanted Fridays. It was more so at the elementary.
At the beginning, Mr. Carrillo, the Fridays that we had talked about when we went to a 4-day week was to do the in-service, not to have the kids there. But then the state gave us those other 10 days that we had to make up, and that's when the Fridays started coming in. From what I've heard from a lot of people is that starting early in July, that's when a lot of them take their vacations, and so they're already in school. That's what some of the people are saying. Not the teachers. The teachers love to go back, but the people themselves are saying starting in July. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and if we go back a couple of years, we've had years where the whole month of July has been used as a K-5 plus. The last month of June and the 4 days a week in July have also, there's been different models, different ways of doing it. The only difference is that this year, what happened this current year, that the PED allowed to be able to do the extra days during the year, where in previous years, they had to be consecutive and before school started. And so that's the difference. Right now, what looking at calendar C, what that would do is give the last 2 weeks in July, and then it would give some days throughout the year, minimizing the Fridays. So that's one of the things that the state did allow for, again, for this coming school year 21-22, which we're talking about, is that flexibility for districts to be able to make up or to conduct the programs throughout the year, and not necessarily at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year. It was up to the discretion of the teachers, of the staff and the districts, and you as a board.
Yeah, the only thing that I see here is that, yeah, they minimize the number of Fridays, but yet my personal feeling on this is that the PED is trying to push us and you watch and see here in the next few years, they're going to push us to be on year-round school.
Mr. Mendoza would like to make a comment.
Mr. Guadiana, go ahead.
You know, having a 1.5 month summer is not something I agree with you 100% there, Mr. Sepulveda. That is not only a difficult time for the schools, being the probable difficulty they may have with air conditioning that seems to be a consistent theme in the summertime. But the 4-day schedule that you mentioned, Dr. Carrillo, I still haven't seen anything data-wise that says it's doing well academically. We don't have any reports on teacher recruitment / retention. And those data elements, I think, are critical in understanding whether there's a positive or negative impact. When I saw that Silver considered that and decided not to, I was kind of envious of them and thinking that, well, I think they're looking at strategies that will not compromise education. And I think there's a lot of convenience to the 4-day schedule. Certainly, if I work at some place and they have the option of a 4-day schedule, I jump on that. But I don't think that in the time, especially after COVID, when it seems like through no fault of anybody, a lot of students are falling back. And a calendar that would give them more potential for trying to bring those more in line with where they should be at, I think is worth considering. But I agree with Toy, at least at the minimum, that C here ends the summer too soon for families.
I ditto both what Gilbert said and what Toy said. I think the short summers, I've heard from families as well that, we're starting school earlier and earlier, and they don't like that. And I would also like to see, that data on the effectiveness and the benefits of the 4-day schedule as well. I think that'd be interesting to see.
And that has been presented, when we went to a 4-day week, we did see an increase in maintained, and it has been presented, but I would be more than glad to present it again.
So how far after that Gilbert, how far into that calendar had that been presented? I mean, when was that snapshot taken? And maybe we're due for another one.
Well, that was before COVID. It's been 2 years since we've had standardized assessments administered in our district.
Mr. President, if I could ask a question again.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I was looking at the calendar here. I wasn't looking at the screen. Go ahead.
I've looked at the assessments and we're not doing very well. Our percentages are sometimes in the 10% as far as proficiency, sometimes as high as 40%. And that's about as high as we go in the proficiencies. And I've asked you specifically about a retention analysis, or as it's called, what's it called? An attrition analysis. And you made the comment of, oh, now you expect us to do an attrition analysis? And that was your response to my question about how we're doing with the 4-day schedule in terms of recruitment and retention. So I haven't seen that. As a matter of fact, I've asked for it and not received it.
The data that you're mentioning, I'm not sure what data you're looking at, but there hasn't been data for the last 2 years in regards to standardized assessments. When we went to a 4-day week, the data that I presented to the board was from the state. That was the data that was presented, and I can certainly do it again.
I'd like to see it too, but the data that I presented recently and provided you a copy of was from the Department of Education, the Public Education Department, and it had to do with their measures now, and their measures are related to proficiency, average proficiency, and as those above the level of 50% proficiency and those below the level of 50% proficiency. And they're for the last 2 years, and I provided them to you and the Finance Committee.
I haven't received that information, Mr. Guadiana, and I'll be more than glad to meet with you and look at the historical data. I haven't received anything from you, and hopefully, we can compare notes and look at the data so that we're on the same page. But you haven't provided me with any data.
I'll email it to you tonight.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Hi, Mr. President, members of the board. I just wanted to jump in a little bit and give a little bit of feedback on the calendar in regards to calendar C. Okay, as Dr. Carrillo did say, we used to always do K3+ in the summer, the month of July. We're no longer doing that, and I know a lot of our teachers really would like to have the less Fridays of instruction, and don't want to take anything further into the month of June. It is extremely hard to keep kids on task. I think the things that still ring true from when we decided on the 4-day week was the retention and the recruiting of teachers. And I'll tell you, I have 3 teachers that came from Silver, and I just hired an intervention teacher that's retired from Silver, and that was a big shining thing, is coming to a 4-day week. Our librarian that came over, our kindergarten teacher that we've had. So just in my school, it is a really big deal. One of the things as well was these Fridays, teachers, that's their planning day. That's when they go home. That's when they plan, and they are very ready on Monday. When Common Core came out, it was a really big deal, and it takes a lot of planning. We have other things that we've implemented into our district, and that's a really big planning day, not to mention our PD Fridays that we have, all the things that we're trying to implement. So I think that's why you do have that majority voting for calendar C, is that if we have to put those days somewhere, let's go ahead and put them at the beginning. There's 2 weeks there, and then there's a week break for the students while teachers do their PD, and then we get started August 1st. And that's kind of how a lot of the teachers, as you can see, the majority voted for that. And we did include parents in the committee. And I've heard from parents that say the same thing that Dr. Carrillo said. They're ready for their kids to come back. I know that there is those parents that still take their kids out for their vacations, and we do start early. But if we're going to need to do these days, that's the place where the teachers want them. That's where we get the best attendance. K3+ or K5+, we've always done it at Hurley Elementary. All the teachers have always taught those, and they were always really good days. And we always got really good attendance, and that's where we got a lot of our review and reteaching during those times, so that we could start the school year off exactly where we needed to. So I've heard too from the parents about, not starting earlier as opposed to at the end or taking it into June. Like I say, it's really, really hard at that point to keep students engaged. They're very, very tired. So I just wanted to let you know that as far as retention and recruitment of teachers, and the feedback from a lot of the teachers and why that they're going on that. And we do have a lot of teachers that are also parents in the district. So that's where a lot of this is coming from, and that's why they lean more to the calendar C.
Juliana,
I hope that helps.
thank you, Lemur. Or Ms. Martinez, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I know that teachers like that data plan. And I think that's really one of the biggest things that was that I thought was great to see teachers have a little bit more of their evenings at home and dinners at home. And I know the hours that they work, even with the 4-day schedule, especially with all the changes that are going now. And I'm very grateful to what it is they do. And as far as the recruitment, I'm glad to see that you are able to recruit. The issue is that the data should be more universal. What you gave me is anecdotal and it's very positive, but it's really more of on the broad impact it has on the school district. And if it is that we're able to keep and retain teachers because of it, then that would be good to know. And it would give less a consideration of thinking whether it's effective or not.
And something else,
point,
Mr. Guardia, I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
Last point is, for my purposes, it's just a matter of having an affirmation that it's working and it has the results we're getting at. And if that's the case, fine, all for it. If it's not the case, then we need to look at it.
Right. Something else to consider, I'll just speak for the athletic side. That was another reason of that Friday is that, and not having school on those Fridays was keeping kids in class and not having them missing so much school. That has really helped a lot, and those long trips and things like that. So that's another thing that we really like to have those Fridays for, is those athletes in the middle school and the high school, and so they don't get far behind. And I'm sure that coming next year we can really look at data when it's not a COVID year, and we can get back into our normal routine and really get back at it. I'm sure that teachers and everybody else will be ready to put forth any kind of data that we have to share on where we are.
And to that point, the data that I used did not include last year. So it was less impacted by the COVID. It wasn't impacted by COVID.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving on, Mr. Mendoza.
Yeah, Mr. President, members of the board, at this point, administratively, I would like to table the vote from the board. And of course, that's the board's decision. And the reason I'm asking this is to give Jose and Joyce another 2 weeks to go back to the committee and take in everything the board has said and even what Ms. Martinez has said. And let's double check this out. And then another more important issue is tomorrow we have a statewide superintendent's meeting with Mr. Rouse and the Superintendent's Association. And then Thursday, we have the Secretary of Education from New Mexico addressing us in reference to some plans. So knowing the way the PED department's been going, who knows what they're going to throw at us next, okay? So with the permission of the board and the recommendation of the administration, we'd like to take this back for further discussion, and there's no hurry right now. One of the things that was kind of pushing us to have this done here was a concern from our finance and Terry, in that if we were going to have to turn in a budget real quick here late this month, early May, we need to have the calendar in place so we can at least buy a couple of weeks with the permission of the board to instruct. And Jose and Joyce are here listening to me about what I'd like to do. So with that in mind, the recommendation with the board, and we'd have to have a motion and approval to table this until the next board meeting, okay?
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move this, Gilbert.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
This is Gabe. I'll second.
Second by Mr. Holguin. Any other questions or comments? All for the vote.
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
Just real quick, and maybe this isn't the right place for it, but I would just say that, at some point in time, we should take a comprehensive look at the 4-day schedule, and to make a real evaluation on its effectiveness compared to the what we were, the model that we had, the 5-day and just reaffirm that we're headed in the right direction, or maybe we need to look at something different.
Okay, but gotta keep in mind in that situation is that if we go off a 4-day week, we'll never get back on it because the state is not allowing any other schools to go to a 4-day week anymore. So that's where we're at with that. Okay. Any other comments? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin. Okay. Mr. Guadiana.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carried. So this is tabled till next board meeting.
That's correct, Mr. Sepulveda. Thank you. Thank you, board members. Thank you very much. A point of order, board members, point of order before we go to the superintendent. I'm looking at the screen and I've noticed that Jaime Treviso has had up. Jaime, are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Jaime, did you want to ask a question? I'm sorry, I see your hands up.
I'm sorry. I've been watching the meeting, and I just wanted to address any concerns that anyone is having about the walk-ins or the ovens. I just wanted to address them personally, since I'm the one who handles everything.
Okay, I'm sorry. On the walk-ins, you said?
Yes, on the walk-in, and then on the exposed wires inside of the ovens and snell.
Okay, yeah, you want to address that? I think Mr. Guadiana had mentioned that, but go ahead. I mean, you have the question.
Yes, sir. So the ovens in Snell, before our old electrician retired, we were having a problem with incoming power to the actual oven. So that top had to come off and the wires had to be exposed for him to trace back the line set to see where we were losing it and see where he can re-find it. Unfortunately, he left before the job can get done. And since then, we haven't hired an electrician. So that job has yet to be done. But as soon as we get an electrician on board, it should be done pretty fast. As for the walk-in refrigerators, the rust since then has been wiped clean. And then I threw a special kind of coat on it to prevent any future rust or corrosion inside of that walk-in. So as of right now, we're good.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Guadiana.
When was this done related to the rust?
With the rust, this was an ongoing process as of last week, and I barely finished today spraying the third coat of the paint that I was putting on. Like I said, I had to scrub the rust all along the floor because there was a lot. So I scrubbed it clean, I sprayed the paint, and between paintings, I was laying a clear coat down to make sure that it wasn't going to scrape or be affected by the cold, pretty much the weather inside of the actual fridge.
And what about the source that caused the rust? From what I understand, there's a leaky roof on top of it.
So the roof has been inspected. I actually did an inspection as soon as Alma brought it to my attention, and there is no point that there would be a leak from the roof. Actually, I couldn't find it. At least I had the carpenter go with me. He couldn't find a leak on the roof. So what I had brought up to George was that I think that maybe when they're cleaning it, they leave the fridge on, which is still good. But if they still have a lot of water built up, that water builds moisture, and then that moisture will then build in a corrosion and things like that.
Okay, and has the dietary been notified about the correction related to that? The walk-in?
While the freezer actually, like I said, I actually just got done today at around maybe 2:30 or 3.
Oh, okay.
And so I wasn't able to actually get to any of the dietary because the lunch ladies had already left, and George, I believe, was on a meeting at the time, so he wasn't able to answer my call. But like I said, it's over and done with. The rust is clean, it's repainted, so we should be good to go there.
Cool. The other thing, okay, with the wires, how long ago did this electrician leave? It's been some time, hasn't it? That you know of, anyway.
The electrician,
you weren't here.
Yes, sir. So the electrician, I believe, left maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. I want to say it was maybe a month ago. And so before that, he was having a lot of trouble, like I said, trying to find where we were losing power. Because to that oven, we were losing power and we were getting a surge. And that pretty much just means that all power was pretty much cut off halfway between the oven to the actual outlet. So the electrician was in the process of finding where that surge was. But like I said, unfortunately, before he left, he wasn't able to find that surge. And that's why it's pretty much exposed how it is right now.
So are there any hazards for people working in that area? And
No, sir.
And how does that affect the equipment itself?
Okay, so as of right now, all power is turned off to that outlet just to ensure that nothing is going to catch fire or ensure any fire hazards at that fact. I made sure personally that it was going to be the gas was turned off, the electricity was turned off, so we don't have any of those hazards coming up in the future until we get an electrician to actually look at it.
There's for the use of or to heat up the foods. What is the alternative to heat up the foods since the ovens are like that? I suppose, well, like you said, they're disabled. So what alternatives are there, and how's that being done? Do you know? And you may not know, and this is certainly outside of your scope, but just kind of for information.
Yes, sir. Well, I do know that two of their other ovens are working. Whenever I first got hired, I got those two working, and then there is a hot top that we call, and it's pretty much just a hot plate that you can set the food on top of that I got working as well. They have the ovens for the pizza, but that can, with the temperature reduced, it will just keep the food warm.
And how much is that in proximity to those that have the exposed wires?
Those the other ovens are relatively close, but like I said, I can assure you that there will be no hazards between an electrical hazard or a fire hazard or anything like that.
Is there any way that those things can be covered up, put the panels back on them that would make them safer, and just mark them as being red tagged for use?
Yes, sir. They can.
I think that would kind of be, my fear is an inspector is going to walk in and see that.
Yes, sir. Most definitely.
Yeah, and that would not be good.
No, sir, not at all. While those panels I can have put back on as soon as tomorrow morning. But like I said, the initial problem with the ovens not being fixed is out of my job scope. It's going to have to be an electrician that has to come in and find where we're missing that power from.
And to that point, I want to mention, I've met you personally, but also other people have told me, and they're impressed with you in the same way that I am. I think you do excellent work. I think you're a great add to an area where we need a lot of progress and accountability. So I appreciate what you do. And thank you for getting on board and answering the questions during this meeting.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wariana. I do appreciate it. Another thing that I wanted to address as well as purifiers.
Yes.
So for each purifier, every hour, those sweep at least 2,400 square feet of air. So for the cafeterias, we have two. And in all classrooms, I actually measured the square footage, and we were good in all classrooms just having one. Just because if we put two, we actually would be ordering more than we were already supposed to be ordering. And with just ordering one, we kind of eliminated that fact of having to order a lot more than what we should have.
So there are classrooms that are certainly bigger than 240 square feet. And those have one. And certainly, like if you look at the office area in Hurley Elementary School, there's one, and there's like at least 3 or 4 doors to separate offices there that aren't affected at all by that one standalone air purifier.
Yes, sir. So The situation in Hurley was I placed the purifier perfectly to where it will get to the front office part of the lobby to where the secretary is. The other office, it's pretty much just for copying machines and things like that. So it's pretty much not a space that needs to be purified as well. I did notice as well that Mrs. Martinez more or less of the time has her door open as well. So with the pretty much the heaters and the ACs going off, it's going to ventilate all the way into her office to the front lobby, and it's going to push all of that air out.
Well, my concern is how you described it in terms of you did the best how you could in terms of the numbers of the ones that we were going to purchase. But I just hope that, for instance, if you go into this first classroom, if you were in Hurley and you go headed, what would that be, east, and you go into the first classroom in that hallway on the left-hand side, that's a huge classroom. And it's got the one air purifier, and it's quite a ways from the door, which may be an advantage as far as where it's placed, but it just doesn't seem like that would be adequate. If it's possible that you could meet us there on Wednesday at 10 o'clock?
Yes, sir, it is. I can meet you there. It's just like I said, so each purifier in 1 hour clears 2,400 square feet of air. So, so with that being said, it one purifier will more than definitely clear a whole room. And let's just say 2 hours, 3 hours, because in just 1 hour, it clears 2,400. So, and a lot of the teachers, they're running them on an 8-hour timer or a 6-hour timer. So in that amount of time, that whole room is being purified.
I understand, but people are going in and out of the classroom. And that's my big concern. And and also the other concern is initially, the discussion was we were going to put 2 in each classroom.
I was not aware of that discussion. I was told that we were supposed to put 1, and then with my measurements, and like I said, and as soon as we got the purifiers, I read up on them and made sure that they were going to be adequate enough to actually purify all the rooms. And to my understanding, it was going to be, more or less it was just going to be the best solution as of right now.
Okay.
And I believe that that's what the State Fire Marshal said, that 1 was adequate enough for the classrooms.
Yes, sir, he did.
Then I don't need to belabor that one anymore. I appreciate that. We'll consider that part done.
Okay.
Okay. Now we move on. Mr. Mendoza.
Yes, sir. On the superintendent's report, I just want to again thank so much for the teachers and the staff that worked on putting these calendars together. I know it took up time after school, and I appreciate their work. And I think one more meeting was said to meet with them too, and that announcement will be forthcoming. On the next board meeting will be April 26th, and this will be April 26th, and it'll be via YouTube live stream. And members of the board, I know Irene provided you with calendars of events for the elementary. That's good to have in case you want to visit an elementary for their programs. And then also the boys basketball as well as girls basketball schedule is provided or should be provided. Then we have baseball, softball, wrestling, and golf. All those have been provided to you. And if you didn't get any, Irene, make sure that they get a copy of it, okay? Make sure they do that. Plus, we had our the New Mexico School Board Association regional meeting, and Irene has provided you with the presentation that Mr. Ortiz from the Ortiz and Zamora Law Firm presented to us. That's Tony F. Ortiz. So that's for your information there. And with that, Mr. President, we move on to the student representative report. Earlier, I saw Toya on there. Does anybody see that she's on?
She's
I'm
still
here.
up.
I'm sorry?
I'm here.
Okay, Tonya, you're on the floor. It's yours.
Good evening, everyone. Today,
evening.
I'm asking or more presenting a option that we could use to hopefully have graduation on the football field. Talking to the seniors now, seeing them, a lot of them are wanting to do graduation on the football field, and with the county colors being updated and we're still in the yellow, we do believe it is the safest option to host a graduation. It is our only thing we are getting out of our senior year. And the most frequent use to protect the football field from other schools is the use of tennis balls on the bottom of the chairs. It is the cheapest and most efficient way we could find to protect the field. There's reports and other things that show that it may leave the indention, but after proper grooming of the field, those indentions will go away. So we are hoping that you guys will let us have a graduation on the football field due to all the circumstances that we've had this year.
Tonya, if I could comment, please, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I know I have a meeting with you all. I don't have the schedule before me, but it's to discuss the graduation options. Are you a part of this committee?
I am.
Okay, well then we'll see you Thursday, okay? And I look forward to that discussion that we have. And I see that Mr. Holguin, you have your hand up, Mr. Holguin? Please.
Yes, I do, Mr. Mendoza. I was going to bring this up as during the public input piece next, but since Toya brought it up, I'll just chime in here. I've been a part of the graduation committee and the meetings that they've been having on Tuesday mornings for the last month or so. And that is definitely one thing that they asked that I bring forward to the board. They and to the administration that they would like to have the graduation ceremony. They would like to see it be held on the football field. And they, Ms. Ortiz said it, they're more than willing to, find those mitigations to protect the investment of the turf. But it would mean a lot for them to, for the senior class to be able to have it on the football field.
Okay, and then,
So
Mr. Holguin, sorry to interrupt, but are you able to join us for that meeting message? Because I don't have it before me. I'll make sure that they contact you. And Toya, do you know when that meeting is?
I have not been aware of that.
Yeah, it was called, let's see, I don't see Ms. Montoya on that. But board members, we'll let you know when that meeting takes place, okay, Gabriel, and we'll get you in on that. And we'll discuss.
Mr. Medina? You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. I think a lot of people appreciated that I was, but I appreciate the planning and I support it 100% as we did when it was brought up a few meetings ago. I was also curious to see if there's still the consideration of having students name a teacher or somebody that's been that critical in their education, be able to present their diplomas. I thought that was an excellent idea, and I hope it's still on the table.
We still had plans to do that. We've figured out many different ways to control the chaos that you would think that comes with it. So it is still on the table.
I am glad. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Toya?
That is all I have this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Tonya.
Okay, that moves us to public input. This time we'll take anything from the public. Do we have anything, Mr. Victor?
No, sir.
Okay. Anything? Moves us to items for next agenda. Go ahead. Mr. Wadiana. Again, you're muted.
Sorry about that, but I noticed that the link has changed to this meeting and it's no longer available on the website. The only way I got it, I saw an email from Gabe and I followed that one. But, and also the agenda today says that the next meeting will be via YouTube. Are we not doing the Google Meet option anymore for public?
That I don't know who changed it or what, Mr. Wadiana. I do see the top of the agenda there where they can log in, but I don't know. I thought we were the same.
On the top of the agenda, it doesn't say the number for Google Meet, the link for Google Meet.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where it got changed, Mr. Wadiana.
Well, I would appreciate that being put in. I think today's attendance and lack of comments clearly reflects that. And along that line, I wanted to bring up one of the concerns that one of the emails that we received about how is it that people can get put on the agenda and how is that process working and what is that? What is the policy that drives how that's done?
The only thing that they need to do to get on the agenda is get with Irene before the agenda is posted. Because once it's posted, it goes to the press on a legal notice, and then that's where our agenda is. But they just need to get with Irene, say like on no later than Wednesday of the week that we're having the board meeting, and they can ask Irene to be put on the agenda. If there are several people that are going to talk about the same thing, maybe they can get together or somehow get a spokesperson that can talk for the group. But they just need to get a hold of Irene and be put on the agenda. And it would be good to have them maybe submit some kind of a little email or something of what they want to talk about, so that if we have something that say pertains to maintenance or something like that, we can make sure that Mr. Peru is on or that Joyce is on or whoever it pertains to is on. Say something that's concerning the high school, well, we need to make sure that Ms. Montoya is on. So if they can just give us a little verb of what they want to talk about, but they just need to get on before the agenda is posted no later than probably Wednesdays of the week that we're having the board meeting.
That works very well.
Mr. Guardiana, just to point something out, we're playing the three teams from Silver tonight. It's a basketball game. That might hurt our attendance for the board meeting. Okay? They're probably watching the game, and I hope they're watching the game.
That'd be a good reason.
Just remember that.
I can't imagine they would choose that over the meeting.
No, I can't imagine either. Okay.
I wish I would have known.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, items for next agenda. Right now we have the calendars. Anything else, Mr. Mendoza?
No, not that I'm aware of right now, Mr. President. Depending on the meeting, how it goes with the high school students, we might put that agenda item for the board to discuss graduation and activities for the end of the year. Okay, so
okay,
that might be one. Okay, I'll put that. Other than that, I'm not aware of any yet.
Mr. William?
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to bring up just as a point of information, a gentleman came to visit me and wanted to see if we would pass around this information, and I don't know if Gabe knows about it. It's National Park All Native Crew, and it's like a summer program for kids that could use some kind of job skills development, and they basically will reside. It's kind of like the CCC, what is that, Corps, Conservation Corps?
Like The Youth Conservation Corps, the YCC.
Yeah. So it's just some information and I have some contact information. I was wondering if that's okay if I take it to the high school, to the counselor and for their consideration in case anybody wants to look at it.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
Mr. Mendel or Mr. Sepulveda, Mr.
Go ahead.
President, how about an update on facilities master planning? Can we add that to the agenda, or is that further down the road?
Yeah,
No,
we should have that going in motion because I think you guys are going to have to vote possibly next week on that contract. Yes, it'll be on.
In addition to that, the process on where we're at with the revision of the policies.
Okay, yeah, I can.
Yeah,
look into that.
I meant to call Ms. Davis. In fact, I meant to call her Friday. I was going to say yesterday, but Friday. I meant to call her Friday to find out where we were at and see where we stand on it, because I know that we need to update our policies here as soon as possible.
Now, on the other end, Mr. Guardiano and board members, the gentleman that's supposed to help us really, really did not want to even come over here. And that was part of his thing, was to come and meet with us as a group, call a special meeting or a workshop. And because of COVID, now that the color's changing on the states, and maybe he'll come up. So yeah, Ms. Davis is the point of contact with him. So we'll, Mr. Sepulveda, go ahead and contact Ms. Davis and get her going on it. Thank you.
Okay.
And the one last thing that you raised the point that the other person that I mentioned in terms of getting on the agenda. Are we looking at moving away from are we looking at moving towards in-person meetings?
Well,
Okay,
my personal feeling on that is that I think we need to wait still a while, see what's happening, because we're still in the county. They're still going up. You know, right now McDonald's is closed completely. I've heard that there's other places that have had COVID, and they're trying to mitigate through some of that. I would hate for us to start in-person meetings and then have to go back to something. I'd rather stay like we are until we're sure that we either get into the green, or because right now we're still yellow. So I don't know.
Can we have a public announcement to that effect?
Sure. I think that we can put out something.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Cordova's not on. Come on, Mr. Gomez. Somebody.
It has to be a Frank.
Okay, come on.
So moved.
All right.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gomez. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Have a
Hey,
good one.
bye-bye.
Have a good night.